power to turn the entire planet Earth into a white light zone. Yes, indeed, there be a spiritual war, and the opposite energy will appear to be winning so far. And the signs of the times will show that the lost and stray mind was handcuffed and bound by spiritual crime. And the gray ghost will whine and dine on the confused state of mind. And the victims of prey will get high and get drunk and will pray in his name, jamming the lanes of the fast food chain, while the mentally insane will walk about, raping and stealing and taking people out. And you couldn't really tell if these were human beings, clones or worker drones, even if you were standing right next to one on the telephone. And every thug a gangster rap and every song that one sang would make it very clear that a love supreme had nothing to do with this, although it would become very clear that there was a deep-seated love for the pain game, and just one more hit of that toxic addiction that one just cannot quit.
Many individuals approach the I&I to express their growing concerns as current events unfold. Generation Z, Y, X. What's in store for the generation next? And that's a big question mark. Trouble, trouble, trouble is what many see. A world in crisis. Personal, national, global crisis. Sexual identity crisis. Mental health crisis. Climate crisis. Energy crisis. Religious and ethnic crisis. War, food scarcity, racial tension, inflation, toxic emission, extreme climate changing scenarios on a global scale. Individuals are feeling unbearable pressure these days as stress, anxiety, and violent outbursts increase. Crisis is a time of great confusion, instability, and danger. But crisis could also be a major turning point for better or worse. As the I&I speak, there is an invasive, viral mindset, a plaguing, tormenting consciousness that threatens the mental, physical, and spiritual existence of man, he and she, Mother Earth, and all living things thereof. Yes, there is a spiritual war going on. Self versus soul. Behold, let supreme truth be told. The sacred order of the Ankh, our sacred soul-to-soul survival code. A sacred few must break ties, open one's eyes and rise, see beyond the master programs of deceptive lies where the self deifies in preparation for his or her own demise.
Time to leave the self-defined mind far behind, our line with the soul divine. Signed and sealed. And it's not about the color of one's skin, but rather the state of consciousness one lives within. Maat decree, karma, not conspiracy. Not conspiracy.
Prophecy, Maat decree, karma, not conspiracy. Let's take a little time to make sure we're communicating on the same channel here. What do we mean by prophecy? Prophecy is a declaration of what is to come in the future. Just as night follows day and day follows night, the unfolding of events and circumstances through time can be seen before they manifest. What is the prophecy we're talking about? What do we mean by Ma'at decree? We are referencing the 42 principles of Ma'at as recorded in the papyrus of Eni, dated somewhere around 1250 BC, or about 3,300 years ago. The papyrus of Eni is found in a Kemetic text, translated as the Book of Coming Forward into the Light. The oldest known reference to Ma'at are dated to the Kemetic Old Kingdom over 5,000 years ago, if not older. Ma'at is referenced in the pyramid text of Una, carved on the walls. These sacred carvings were called metanetta within the ancient Kemetic culture. Long, long ago, before the existence of ancient Babylon, ancient Greece, or ancient Rome, there was Ma'at. Long, long before the intrusions and invasions into the fertile black lands of Kemet by the Hyksos, Semite, and Hittite warring tribes, there was Maat. Yes, long, long before the destabilization of ancient Kemet by shepherd kings and their offspring, there was Maat. The Maat decree is that one must be able to pass the balancing of one's thoughts and deeds in accordance to supreme truth and supreme justice. The tracking of the movements of earth, wind, rain, and sun provided a central focus on Maat as cosmic order within the sacred garden culture from which we come. Ruins, artifacts, and findings have shown that for thousands of years, ancient societies all around the world erected massive stone circles, aligning them with the sun and stars to track and trace the passage of time. These early calendars foretold of the coming of seasons, helping civilizations to track when to plant and harvest crops. Playa stands some 700 miles south of the Great Pyramid of Giza on the continent of Africa. Research indicates that it was built more than 7,000 years ago, making Playa the oldest stone circle yet discovered and known, and possibly Earth's oldest astronomy observatory. What we are witnessing these days are cycles of time that have been tracked and traced. Yes, as seasons come and go, ages come and go. A tree bears the nature of its fruit, and that fruit bears the nature of its seed, and so too will the seed bear the nature of the tree from which it comes. The papyrus of Anak tracks the life cycle of an embodied soul, depicting a process of judgment where those who are unable to pass the balancing of supreme truth and supreme justice will be devoured by the oblivious nothingness of their own self-deified, depleted nature of consciousness. Maat was often depicted in ancient Kemet as holding an ankh in her hand. That is the sacred order of the ankh. The ankh, the key of life, the tree of life, symbolizing the divine union of masculine and feminine energy. Within the oldest ancestral Kemetic tradition, Maat is described as a daughter of the sun, Ra. Maat is mated with Tahuti, the nectar of language, sacred texts, mathematics, the sciences, messenger and recorder of the deities, master of knowledge, patron of scribes, and Heka, translated as magical. Heka literally means, quote, the activating of the Ka, end of quote. The Ka being the soul or life presence. Maat decree is the judgment that determines where one stands in relationship to universal order. Who is the judge and who makes that determination? Karma, not conspiracy. And what do we mean by karma? Karma is the cause and effects of one's action, the truth and consequence of one's state of being. As I have stated for many decades, what you put in is what will come out, and what you put out is what will come back to you again, multiplied, when, where, and how you least expect it. That is, one will reap from what one sows. The Indus Valley River culture of India, also known as the Harappan civilization, and the Yellow River Valley culture of China, extended from the Nile River Valley cultures of ancient Kemet, Ethiopia, as the early migrations out of Africa seeded garden culture consciousness. Tillers of the soil, consumers of the tree of life, were inhabitants of environment that sustained the sacred garden culture from which we come as divine children of the sun. Karma deals with one's personal accountability in thought and in deed. Dharma is natural universal law. The purpose of Dharma is not only to attain a union of the soul with supreme reality, but also to provide a code of conduct. Tao or Tao is the natural principle underlining the universe within the principles of yin and yang, and signifying the way or code of behavior that is in harmony with the natural order. Taoism teaches living in a state of harmony with the universe and qi, that is, whole life energy. Sacred teachings, shared and recorded, cannot be claimed or possessed by any individual or any people, but come from the most supreme unseen essence of masculine and feminine energy as divine laws of universal order. Supreme truth, eternal, ever present, the same now as 2 or 10,000 years ago, and as meaningful today as ever. Ancient Kemetic teachings forewarned us that there comes a time when one must face supreme truth and the balancing of supreme justice. It is not time to reinvent the wheel. It is time to get on down the road with divine order, quick, fast, and in a hurry, and avoid the many different paths that mislead one into self-destruction. In truth and reality, outside of the principles, morals, and values of Maat, toxic disorder is all that one can manifest. That I and I have been speaking about the divine laws of universal order for over half a century, and this is certainly not new. Either one moves in alignment with Maat, or one moves to satisfy the whim, wants, and desires of one's self-asserted will as the glory of self-deified individualism. Two different natures of movement fueled by two different natures of energy, self or soul. Please be aware that when one rejects and rebels against the duties, obligations, and responsibilities of Maat, while talking sweet words of righteousness, one becomes a practitioner of a nature that actually opposes divine order, opposes Maat. In ancient Kemetic, that opposing nature was identified as Isfit. Isfit, the self-deifying nature of consciousness that exists outside of divine order, outside the sacred ancestral principles of Maat. Isfit is those things that oppose creation. It is non-existence. It is abuse, rape, murder, selfishness, enslavement, and hate. The serpent of chaos called Apep, and the god Set, who was later called Sutek and Satan, among other names, were described as agents of Isfit. Many paths, many popular personalities and individualistic profiles, different names, different appearances, different shades and tones, yet same divisive, chaotic nature of self-deified individualism. Look, listen, discern. Isfit devours life energy, depleting the consciousness of all who oppose the divine laws of universal order as one sinks into a lower and lesser state of being, into a fatal decline. Implosion is a certainty. So it was, so it is, and so it shall be. Critical stages and phases of mental, physical, and spiritual disorder are more visible each passing day. The nature of Isfit, the death-consuming culture, promotes many paths to self-destruction, and each one of these individualistic paths depletes the soul one by one and in mass. Agents, disciples, and followers of Isfit do profit from the loss, as self-deified individualism quickly justifies the right to dominate, control, and feed upon the life energy of others. Self-deified individualism is where one does as one pleases, regardless of supreme truth or the toxic consequences. At every turn, social, economic, political, and religious syndromes perpetuate the nature of Isfit. Yes, indeed, it is a spiritual war, and the opposition nature appears to be winning so far.
there be a war going on. A spiritual war to turn the entire planet Earth into a white light zone. Yes, indeed, there be a spiritual war, and the opposite energy would appear to be winning so far. And the signs of the times will show that the lost and stray mind was handcuffed and bound by spiritual crime.